Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome again to the 2023 TWC Workforce Forum. You are currently in the Data Modernization in Support of Texas Workforce Solutions session. My name is Hope Hemingway. I'm going to be serving as your moderator today. I'll just be monitoring the room, handling any issues that may arise. Forum materials are going to be available on the TWC website. Really quick, please double check, make sure that you've silenced all of your electronic devices. If you do have an important call or something that you need to take, please, we ask that you take it out in the hallway. If time permits, at the conclusion of this presentation, there will be a Q&A period. Please just raise your hand. I will bring the microphone to you, as we are recording the session and we want to make sure all questions are clearly understood. If we do not have enough time to answer your questions, you may request the presenter's contact info at the end of this session. You will also be receiving an electronic survey after the event. Please complete it, as your feedback is greatly appreciated. And really quick, this session is approved for CRC CEU credit. So in order to get that, please remember to visit the CRC CEU table in the pre-function area. A couple of quick reminders before I hand over the microphone and the floor. First reminder is parking. The parking garage, you might have already heard this, but just a reminder, is $5 for the morning and $5 for the afternoon. If you were here yesterday, I'm sure you dealt with getting out of the parking garage, and that was definitely a time. It was a journey for all of us. The hotel staff are requesting that if you have your parking ticket with you, please take it to the front desk. You can pay there and get it validated. We're hoping that that will kind of minimize the amount of time it takes for people to exit the garage later this afternoon. So if you don't have your ticket with you, like me, I left it on the dashboard of my car, maybe go grab it during lunch break or some other time this afternoon so you can get it validated at the front desk. One last reminder, if you are staying at the hotel, please remember to check out before noon. So if you have not done that yet, remember to do it before noon. There's no late checkout. All right, with that, we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's presentation. Please welcome your speakers for this session. You guys now have the floor.
No, we haven't done anything yet. All right. Hi, I'm Leonard. I'm the Chief Analytics Officer for the Workforce Commission. I've been doing this for just over 20 years now in one role or another, kind of a constantly evolving role. We're going to be dividing this session into two major parts, or maybe we could call it kind of a condensed part up front and then a more expansive part on the back end. What I wanted to do to begin with was to kind of talk a little bit about the division and some changes that have been made over the last year to try to help you all understand what we're doing and how we're trying to better support you in your mission as far as helping Texans. And then we want to demonstrate some of the products that are going to be going live, some of which are live, and a whole suite of which that are going to be similar and coming live over the next roughly 7 to 12 months. You're going to be starting to see a lot more of this. So with me, I've got Beth Durham, who is the Department Director for Analytics Infrastructure. She is that group is the group whose job it is to take data that's been put into the data warehouse by IT and to transform it into a set of tools that can be accessed by users to answer questions, help manage programs to better understand what's working, what's not working, etc. And Jennifer Palmer-Lee, who is one of the managers on that team. She's in charge of data visualizations and is also our Tableau administrator. Tableau is the tool that we've chosen for data visualizations at the agency. We made that decision about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, in large part because it was the most advanced product in terms of accessibility on the market, that you could do more with it in terms of screen readers than any other product. And although some of the others have gotten a lot better, Tableau continues to lead the way, and you know that we have a huge commitment to supporting users who need screen readers, especially since our goal in the long run is to make many of the things you're going to be seeing today available to the public. Not the download of the data part, but the interaction with the dashboards and being able to understand what our system does and how well we do it and where we might need to improve a little bit. So this is going to be super interactive, guys, so get ready to be holding your hands up, get ready to be asking questions. We might pull somebody out of the audience and, you know, could happen, I'm just saying. So run for the doors now if you're not ready. All right, so here's the thing. This division was kind of reorganized slightly. We used to be called Operational Insight, or at least I used to run a division that was called Operational Insight, and it was about 45 people. It was created in June of 2014. And the idea was to create kind of this center of business intelligence within the agency and to try to take our data and create value out of it. And then the problem is that WIOA passed, and suddenly we spent the next 3 years trying to react to that, write and respond to rules and do all that work. And then after that, we were suddenly into work in Texas replacement, and so we were trying to build out all of that. And then we started doing twist replacement, and that took up quite a bit of time. And you know what happened next is we suddenly decided it'd be a good idea to replace UI, childcare, and all these other systems. But the thing is that if you think about kind of where we are now, September of last year, Ed Cern, our executive director, he said, why don't we have all the data people in one shop? Why don't we bring together and integrate and create this critical mass of data in one place? Because we've had our labor market information group was part of a different division. And more over the years, our work was starting to overlap, meaning Operational Insight was spending more time looking at LMI data and working with it. And I think that more and more of the questions were starting to come into LMI about not only the trends of what was happening there, but how that more directly affected the work that you all did in terms of serving people in Texas. And so we brought this together. Now, the funny thing about this is there was actually a division that was already in place in this agency that looked almost exactly like this 20 years ago when I started. I mean, it was the same except for 8 positions, roughly, that are now in the education outreach group that's part of, that Lori Knight runs, and it's in another division. But otherwise, I mean, this division called WIRED, Workforce Information Analysis Reporting Division, it had data analysts and researchers and programmers and DBAs and economists, and the executive director at the time, Cassie Carlton-Reed, her idea was like, if you just brought this together, some magic would happen, and there'd be this critical mass of people and incredible things would happen. And unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. And part of that is because magic doesn't happen. Magic's not a strategy, right? So when we did it this time, we actually sat down and tried to make sure that we didn't repeat the mistakes of the past, that the reason that 70% of all reorganizations fail is because they just involve moving the lines on the org chart, like, oh, well, now this person's going to report to this person, but they just keep doing things the same way, right? And so we look together to try to figure out how do we become greater than the sum of our parts. And so now we have this division, Information, Innovation, and Insight, or what we call I-cubed, that did all of that other stuff before, but now we've got business process or continuous improvement specialists, we've got data visualization specialists, business analysts, systems analysts, research and statistical technicians, data architects, project managers, data scientists. Like, we're in a completely different space there because we have a much clearer idea of what you can do. Now, some of that is, of course, because the world has changed. machine learning, artificial intelligence. These are things that were not thought about in government 20 years ago. They barely existed. They were the stuff of researchers and universities and not really the real world. But they are now. And in fact, I thought I would take a moment to kind of show you that. You guys have probably all heard of ChatGPT. It's an generative artificial intelligence. It's going to blow up the world. It is going to absolutely blow up the workplace. It's going to change more jobs than anything since the Industrial Revolution. And we as a group need to figure out exactly how we're going to help people adapt to that and be productive and, meaningful, be able to meaningfully contribute to employers. So what I did was I asked it a question. I said, ChatGPT, tell me what the role of information, innovation, and insight is and how it contributes to the mission of the Texas workforce system. Now, we don't have a lot of data we don't have a lot of presence on the web, right? We're mentioned in some strategic plans and some annual reports and a few other things. LMI has a lot of data on the web, but even that doesn't have a lot of information about like what the role is and the responsibility. This is what it gave me. The highlighted parts are the only corrections I had to make. This is a really accurate definition of what we do and our mission, right? Support evidence-based decision-making across the organization through collection, analysis, and dissemination of labor market and workforce development data. Boom, it's right there in the first sentence, okay? The only thing I had to change is they obviously, couldn't know the way that we weirdly abbreviate the division name. We actually call ourselves I cubed because, again, we're greater than the sum of our parts, and I'm a math geek. But that we found that having to put an I in a superscripted 3, every time you typed it, you had to manually change the 3 to superscript, and that was really a lot of pain. So we had to come up with something else. So I had to make all those changes, and it totally missed the fact that we have business transformation and process improvement. But otherwise, this is a pretty good definition. But when I think about what we do, and when I go talk about this, and I spend a lot of time talking to other states, I spend a lot of time talking to people in the education system, both in the state and around the country. What I do is I think about data as the greatest untapped resource that government and many other organizations have. That it represents our past and it can inform our present, and that ultimately it can change our future if we do this right, if we work together with it. And what I mean is that we can figure out what works under the right set of circumstances, okay, for a given set of customers. And I think that's really important to say. There is no silver bullet. There is no one solution that works for everybody, okay? So the key is not just evidence-based, like what, quote unquote, what works. It's like what is likely to work for the person sitting across from you, because people are different. But they're not so different that they don't belong in groups of similar people who have similar backgrounds, who respond similarly to different types of approaches. And so if we can figure these types of things out, then we can help people make more informed decisions, right? So whether you are a person who works directly with customers, and we can just put some information in front of you that says, hey, people like this customer you're talking to, they tend to have 20% better outcomes with this mix of services. We're not saying do it. We're not saying you have to do it. We're just giving you information to talk to your customer about, to say, hey, here's some ideas we've got that might help you. And if they don't want to do it, they're the customer. Don't do it. But if they like it, maybe it speaks to them. If we can just move the needle, right, by doing that. Because not spending time on things, If all services work but they don't work equally for everybody, then focusing on the services that work best for some people, for the right people, and then other services from other people, that is an incredible increase in efficiency, right? Rather than a one-size-fits-all. And so really, ultimately, that's what we're talking about here. Our system, everybody who's in here, no matter what role you're in, whether you directly work with clients, whether you are a support function who helps with automation, who helps with reporting, who works in finance, who works in HR, anybody who is supporting our system, whether you're in education, you are in the business of helping Texans achieve prosperity. That's what this is about, okay? That's why I'm here. That's why I get out of bed every day. And so our mission as a division is the application of data for prosperity, okay? That's what we're here to do, is to try to leverage the data to help you all better serve Texans and better help them achieve prosperity. And that's really what our mission is all about. And so when we talk about this, we think about the value stream, right? The data value stream. How do we explain this to people? I mean, I just spent a couple minutes, but think about it like step by step. What does this look like? So the first thing is, of course, you've got to get data. You've got to clean the data. You've got to organize it. You have to make it easily accessible to people to be able to use. That's the first step. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. Now, if we take that data that is clean and organized and available to people and we add context to it, now we have a piece of information. If we take that information and we add analysis, we can gain insights, things that tell us about what works or doesn't work in a given situation. If we take that insight and we add action to it, we have impact, and that impact is what drives transformation, and transformation is what allows us to help people achieve prosperity. So, like I said, that's the big message I wanted you to take away today from this, and what is driving everything we're trying to do as a division. Organizationally, briefly, we have 4 departments. One is labor market information, and Mariana Vega is our director there. Of course, I'm sure you're all familiar with the kinds of information they produce in terms of things like the unemployment rate, the levels of employment, the civilian labor force participation rates. They do 2 and 10-year projections on future demand by occupation, so this is useful from a planning standpoint in the short and the longer term in terms of helping people make good decisions for their careers. We've been working with a board work group to gather requirements for potential next generation set of tools to make it easier to bring this. LMI's got an incredible set of tools, but the data is spread amongst many tools. And if we can figure out a way to take the most valuable information off each tool, bring it together in one place, and make it easy to navigate and work with, I think that's something that's going to serve you all really well. I mentioned analytics infrastructure that Beth Durham runs, and I already kind of talked about their mission, which is to take the raw data that's in our IT systems and to transform it into a more useful, easier to work with format that we can drive the reporting and the analytics. So we work closely with IT and in terms of figuring out what data we need, and they get it into the system for us and put it in a format that allows us not only to use it, but ultimately to kind of audit it in a way by looking at how it's changing over time, so we can take different snapshots, end-of-day snapshots, and understand what did the data look like a year ago on a given day if we need to. That's really a critical element to the process, although most of us are probably working in the semi-real-time, near-time data, like what was it as of this weekend or last night. So we've been finishing up our deliverables for the first set. Here's your first chance at audience participation. I'd really like to know who's in the room. So for starters, can I get my board staff people to hold their hands up? All right, a lot of you. Now, on the board staff people, how many people work in childcare? Okay, we got stuff coming for y'all. Okay, most of the stuff that's come so far has been more for the kind of traditional workforce programs. We got stuff. We got any adult ed people in the room? Good. We got some stuff that looks like this coming for you too. How about my VR people? All this stuff is coming for you. Okay, so what you're going to be seeing in the demo here in a couple minutes, imagine the name of your program at the top and the ability to do all of these things for your clients. That's what we're trying to build here. All right, so the other two groups are analytics and evaluation. This is a group that's primarily made up of analysts and researchers and data scientists. And the idea is, right now they're serving as subject matter experts to help build out all this analytics infrastructure because they're the ones who currently really understand the data and the programs. They're like the interface between the two groups. But once we build all this stuff out, that is going to free up their capacity to do far more analysis and evaluation work to generate those insights that we can then share with you all. We've been doing some of these, 1 or 2 a year. I'd love to see us getting to 5 or 6 meaningful evaluation projects a year and getting that out there across all of our programs. We've done a few things in VR. We've done a couple things in adult ed. Well, one thing out in adult ed. We're working on another thing for adult ed right now. We've got a new VR project underway and a big, more ambitious, longer range plan for something for kind of the traditional board programs that is, I described earlier about trying to kind of a recommendation engine regarding services. The last one is our business transformation group. You guys probably don't see this as much, but this is our group that does so they have several techniques, one of which is rapid process improvement. We have not traditionally spent a lot of time with these efforts at the board level or locally otherwise, but that is something that could change over time in terms of trainings and otherwise trying to get those techniques out there. So looking now briefly to kind of work towards the handoff, we've got all of these modernization projects that we've either recently done or that are underway. Most of them, workforce case management, rehab works, and childcare are basically all scheduled to go live over the next 7-ish months, right? So the last one is supposed to go live in January. So we have rehab works at the end of the summer, childcare in October, twist replacement in January. UI is in a little bit of a holding pattern at the moment, but hopefully we'll see some action or planning on what's going to happen next there. But from the data for prosperity perspective, this EDW and Tableau work that we're doing, again, is essential in terms of trying to create and promote this culture the culture of data that we want to use, democratizing our data, making it more accessible to people in the field. The reality is that I know that many of you have quite talented people on your staff who can work with data. Like, I don't just mean people who are good in Excel. I mean people who know Python, who can do real research and evaluation work, publication quality stuff. Getting them the tools to help do their jobs better is only going to multiply our impact as a whole, right? Even though my division is like the center of excellence for this in the agency, we have data analysts all over the agency, and it's something that we support. I support, okay? It's not a threat to like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be the data guy. No, I want data everywhere. I think everybody needs it. So the idea is, though, that if we can automate these things to easily answer the who, what, when, and where questions, the conditional questions that always come up, right? How many people did we serve last year who are female in the ages of, 18 to 24, who, are in the youth program or whatever? Those types of questions come up all the time. These dashboards get you those answers fast. So instead of writing a query, you can pull them up in minutes, if not faster, okay? And what that does is that it makes it easier for us to spend time. We have more resources, more time. You have more resources, more time answering the harder questions about how, why, what's next, and what do we do about it, right? That's the area of the data that we need to be leveraging when I talk about research and evaluation and analytics. And building the capacity for evidence-building research, okay? So what you're going to see, and I'm about to hand it off to Jennifer to demo, is that all of our major workforce programs are going to get entirely new set of EDW, and I'm sorry, I don't think I've ever explained. EDW is our enterprise data warehouse, for those of you who have no idea what the hell I've been talking about. It's so easy to just go right there. In any case, the enterprise data warehouse is the underlying IT system that holds all of this data in an Oracle database, and then Tableau taps into that, and that's your interface for working with the data. There's going to be a mix of common reports, like the ones that are going to be demonstrated in a minute, and then there are going to be program-specific reports, because ultimately, while there's a lot of commonality between programs, there's also differences between programs, and we know that there needs to be both things. But the idea behind the common is we really want people to be able to compare data across programs, and also to be able to work together across programs more effectively, because they have similar reports, similar measures, right? Those of you who've been here for about 18 years will remember there was an effort called Common Measures, right? Okay, you remember, yeah, what's old is new again. So we're taking those ideas and applying them really broadly. All right, so you're going to see a set for pretty much every program of reports that allow you to kind of explore information about the customers that are being served, whether they're participants or reportable individuals or they've exited. You're going to be able to look at employment and enrollment outcomes, earnings outcomes, credential outcomes, and measurable skills gain outcomes, because those are the common measures, right? But we also need some more program-specific things. So we have some new board measures that we were asked to create, that those will be coming up. Those are for kind of the traditional board workforce programs. VR is really interested in some expenditure tracking tools to help them do forecasting, so we're going to be building something there. In childcare, of course, we're really interested in what's going on with TRS and with kids per day and those kinds of reports. And what the breakdown of those kids are in terms of age and where they're getting their care and those costs. So we have to bring tools there. And adult education breaks out measurable skills gain by educational functioning levels, which the other programs for the most part don't. So that's something that's really key to that. And we're going to see as we go forward that and build these things that even though we're going to have both common and program-specific things, some of the common things are going to have some extra controls that are specific to your programs. So with that, I'm handing it off to Jennifer to do a demo. Oh, you're going to stand? Yeah. All right. All right. So.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer. And I have a few more slides to give you before we go to a live demo. So the first thing I want to talk about is obtaining an account for accessing these reports. For boards and board contractors, you need to have your system administrator submit a ServiceNow ticket to workforce reports, not to Tableau support, to workforce reports. And request an Okta account with your first and last name and your email, which is going to be your username, and a group called Tableau-board. This is very important. TWC staff, same deal, but you'll do Tableau-division name, okay? I see everybody taking pictures. You guys know these slides are gonna be posted on the internet, right? Yes, ma'am?
Is this for new ones, or is it going to cross over if you should have an existing account on the Tableau?
This is only for new accounts, yeah. Not everybody has an account yet. We're still pretty new. Once your account is created, you have 7 days to activate that account. You'll get an email from Okta, and if you fail to do it within 7 days, you need to submit another ServiceNow ticket to Workforce Reports and have your password reset again. And those do go to junk and spam. They will let you know when they send that email, so you know to look for it. Viewing PII and the downloads. Data that includes personally identifiable information requires additional security measures, and those are contained within our individual workbook visualizations. An example is you want to download some CNT information from the Tableau server. That requires you to have a twist account, and that twist account also has to have the same email that you use to log into our server, and that's how we provide security. So next we're going to do some demonstrations. I'm going to show you how to navigate Tableau server. We're going to go over a couple reports: employed and employed enrolled, measurable skills gain, participants, reportables, and customers. And then you might see an MPR preview for when we switch to the MPR on Tableau. And we might also do a live interactive case study with you guys. To log in, these are the URLs that you go to log in to the servers. But again, you do have to have those accounts first. I'm gonna do a sit down for the rest of this because I want you paying attention to the screen and not necessarily to my face. Can you all hear me? Yeah, great. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Tableau 1 server that I had listed on that last slide. And I'm going to log in. It's going to give me a screen that says Okta. And so you just put in your username, which is your email address, and your password. The first thing that comes up is this menu, which is going to help you navigate around the different reports on our Tableau server. It's going to help a lot. I am going to go over a few things first to just help you navigate Tableau itself, and then actually navigating the reports. First, I want to ask, who in here has an Okta account with Tableau access? Yay, thank you. How many of you regularly log in and use those reports? Yay. So yeah, I mean, you can have the account and never use it. I just want to give some friendly thoughts before we get started too. You're not going to break anything. Users are able to make changes to the drop-downs, but you can't change the data source. You aren't going to break anything. You can filter on the drop-downs to your heart's content, and you can hit the refresh button if you run into a problem. The only way to get comfortable using these tools is to use them, okay? Set aside some time, even like 15 minutes a couple times a week, to just play around and maybe ask yourself a question. Like, you could start out with a general question like, for WIOA youth in my board, what was the employed and employed enrolled in Q2 rate for 2020 Q1, less than 18-year-olds? This is gonna come back up. So it's a very specific thing that we're gonna look up here in a second. But those are the kinds of questions, like if your ED has a question or your manager has a question, you can easily answer them with the visualizations I'm about to show you. So you're automatically redirected to what you're seeing up on the screen, this menu. There are 2 Tableau navigation bars. There's this white one at the top that has breadcrumbs, and this little star right here. Data sources, and there's like a search, a quick favorites list, so everything that you favorite you can easily get to, about notifications, you know, my settings and things like that. The next one is gonna be a lot more helpful. So you have undo, redo, all that fun stuff, but I really wanna point out this pause. And I know it's probably really hard to see up in the top left-hand corner. If you're in the middle of filtering and you have to step away, hit that pause button, because the screen won't refresh while you're away. You just need to remember to hit play again when you come back. You can also save views. So if it says original view, that's the original one that my team posted. But you can save your own views as well if you're looking at something all the time. This data guide is new, and it tells you what you can see on the screen, where it comes from. And then you have this download button where you can download PDFs, images, data sometimes. Here you can't. And full screen view and share. Okay. Is there any questions about that? Great. So this menu, if this is your first time coming to this menu when you log in, take a moment to just look over the whole page. It really is gonna help you, because one of the very first things it says is, select the star above in the Tableau menu to favorite it for easy access to this list. So you just take that star up in that top white bar and click it, it fills in, and then you can go back over here to this favorites list and find it right away. TWC published reports list, very first thing. It's an easy way to navigate. It also tells you to use Google Chrome as your browser for Tableau. Google Chrome is the recommended browser by Tableau, so that's what we use, and we want to make sure that you guys get the most out of this information. Okay. If you're having problems with a report, you may see a notification in this next part, which is our notifications bar. Right now we have 2 active notices. We have 2 active things that we're looking into. So take a look at those and see if you're having problems. Is that what's affecting you? Because then we already know about it. We also have a list of the previous messages by going to this button. So if there was something in the past that you want to make sure is taken care of, there's the previous messages. It's really nice. It also keeps track of what's been happening with us. And this next area is the actual menu for the reports. You can see we have board contracted reports, child care reports, some employment connections, and unemployment insurance. Today we're mainly going to talk about CNT. But if you only care about those things, then we're going to go ahead and just look at the workforce, hit apply, and so you get this nice list of just the reports we're going to look at today. If you want to look at the visualization and the documentation, click in between this report group and this schedule refresh on the row you want to see. Or if you just want to look at the visualization or the documentation alone, you can click on one of these buttons. Today, we're starting out with employed and employed enrolled. So I'm going to just go to the visualization. And I'm going to do this, trying to make it fit on the screen. Okay. Every one of our Tableau workbooks is formatted in the same general way. If there's more than one dashboard, like in the case of this, we'll have a menu. This has multiple measures in it, and it explains the numerators and denominators, has a report description. So that information is accessible to you immediately upon entering the visualization itself. All of these CNT visualizations that we'll be showing to you today also have demographics and quarterly performance pages. They might have additional dashboards, but every last one of them is going to have a demographics and a quarterly performance, or monthly, depending on which the measure is. So we're going to see a couple different visualizations, and we'll see how they're the same or different today. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to this demographics dashboard. It pops right up. This is employed and employed enrolled Q2, all boards, all programs except other. Mature data from 2021 Q1 through 2022 Q2. Nothing else is filtered. Each one of these dashboards will have a title bar at the top. These first two icons are for individuals who use screen readers. So we have keyboard shortcuts and then a how-to navigate Tableau visualizations for people who might need that information. Then the title and a division icon. And then we have two filter bars. Sometimes there's just one, sometimes there might be more. In this case, we have two filter bars and some PDF and CSV icons, a subheading, and then the visualization itself, and then the menu at the bottom. So every last one of these is going to be formatted in the same way. Okay. Earlier, I had posed that simple question, right? It was for OA youth in my board, which happens to be capital areas where I live. And that was for employed and employed enrolled Q2, 2020 Q1 for less than 18-year-olds. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to change board to capital area. And I'm going to change this to youth local. It's a board, so it's local. And that was for 2020 Q1. So I'm going to do a start date of 2020 Q1 and an end date of 2020 Q1. And you'll see that the rate for less than 18-year-olds is 71.43%. And as I started filtering, the numbers constantly changed. It's searching for that information that you're looking for as you're changing the filters. So it's a really powerful tool to be able to interact with your data in this way. Okay. So this is great. It gives you a quarter. But this may not be the way you want to see your information always in these tables. So we do have this quarterly performance dashboard. We only have one quarter selected, so you're only going to see one quarter on this. It kept all the same filters that you had on the demographics dashboard. This is for you guys because nobody wants to do this multiple times a day. But things do look different here. So what we're going to do, we're going to change this up a little bit. We're going to stick with an employed, enrolled, capital area, youth local. And you'll see that, wait, this says 7727. Didn't you say 7143? Does anybody know why? No? The age. It was less than 18-year-olds, but I didn't filter for just less than 18-year-olds. You'll see age says all. If I change that and I do less than 18-year-olds, I got my 7143, right? So this is how powerful this is. You can find very specific information or very wide-ranging information at a few clicks or tabs and enters for people using screen readers. So, but this isn't necessarily the best way to use this particular dashboard, right? We want to see more than just one quarter bar here. We want to see a little bit more. So we're going to change this, and we're going to do, let's see, we're going to switch to adult local. Again, I have capital area selected, and so adult local is the capital area numbers. And you're like, wait, where did everything go? It's the age, right? Yeah. So I'm going to add everybody. You see the list change too. You now don't have the less than 18-year-olds, but you have all these other categories. So now we have our numbers back now that we removed the less than 18-year-olds. Okay, so we're going to change this end date to go down to 2023 quarter 1, and we're going to see an amazing chart populate. But wait, it's not showing through 2023 quarter 1. It's because not everything is mature yet. So if we add in the non-mature quarters or unreportable quarters so far, we can scroll, hopefully, if my mouse cooperates, and then we have these non-mature quarters added to the end. If you want to see this all on one page, this is an Adam thing, so thank Adam for this. You can go to this trend period, no scroll, and there it is, the whole thing. Okay. So these are the typical views, and this is how you use this information. I also want to mention that the numbers on the right-hand side only include mature data. They do not include not mature data. And I have several years selected, so that's not even a year period for you guys. So just be aware, like, those totals are everything that is mature that you have selected on the screen, okay? Yes? Yeah, so across the bottom, you have labels indicating whether it's mature or not mature, so you know which ones are which. Because you see this not mature one that's blowing out at the top there. Yeah, that's still not mature yet. Okay. Let's see. This visualization, like I said, does have an extra dashboard that others might not have. Okay. Again, it keeps the same filters, but it has an extra filter. And you'll see that it has Title I Adult Local selected for both of these programs. We want to change one of these, so I'm going to change the red line or the diamond shape to all C and T except other. So that's everything in that drop-down list. And here is where you can compare two programs against each other, especially all except other against adult, local. So you can see the trends and how they compare to each other over time. Of course, you can see here that adult local is doing better than all C and T except other. Yes, Patricia?
Question? Can you go back and how did you get to this page? I know you said not everybody has it, but how did you get to this one?
The bottom has a menu. I wonder. So across the bottom,
Bottom right-hand
there's
corner.
menu, demographics, quarterly performance, and quarterly performance comparison. So it's the last one. Okay. Okay. I just have a few more items to check off my list before I really go rogue. So, these PDF and CSV buttons that you see in the bottom row of the filter bar, these are gonna allow you to not have to find some random button in the Tableau bars to download stuff and do weird things to make it happen. We have a PDF button where you just click the PDF. You wanna print out this view. You wanna do it on letter sized. It's not portrait, it's landscape. And download it. You have something perfectly packaged for you to give to your workforce board or your managers to look at during meetings and things like that if they don't have access to the actual site during meetings, right? Are we still printing out things anymore? I don't know. I'm not. CSV is kind of the same way. It's a little bit more difficult, but this is how you get the percentages that you see going across the screen. You'll click CSV. You have a couple options here. You have download the circle blue program, which is the total, or the adult local, and then you have download all C&T other, the red diamond. So those are the two options for you to download. This other stuff is like the footer and the title. I have no control over this, y'all. It's out of the box. So, and then you just click CSV and download it, and it downloads it into an Excel file that you can use. Okay, are there any questions about employed and employed enrolled? I do have one more thing on this one to show you. So you know how in Twist Workforce Reports you had to go to 7 different reports to get all your employed and employed enrolled? This first drop-down, there is all your measures. It's all in one visualization. You don't have to go multiple places to get this information anymore. You just use the drop-down and switch. Super easy, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is what this makes my heart happy, because Adam coming and saying, "Hey, do these ad hocs for all these measures." I'm like, no. I mean, I don't live in that land anymore, but I am about to live there, I think, again, with these visualizations. So just know that sometimes you don't, for these particular reports, you don't have to go multiple places. Sometimes you might, but it's all in one. Employed, enrolled, and employment related to training is all in one visualization. You don't have to go anywhere else. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at measurable skills gain. Okay, so I have favorites. So I'm actually using this favorites list for the first time. I've never really used this. I've always done the long way. I just found out about this. So I'm learning stuff all the time about this too. Measurable skills gain. Okay. Okay. Again, same format. I come into the menu. It shows me a menu with the demographics, you know how I said quarterly performance before, and sometimes there's also monthly performance? This one also has monthly performance. So we have monthly, quarterly performance, and yearly performance. And it has an additional dashboard that other workbooks don't have. Again, we have our numerator and denominator, and you know how I just showed you that drop down for employed and employed enrolled, where it has the 7 measures? Well, this one only has 1. So there is no drop down for measure, right? Okay, so, but it gives you the description and the numerator and denominator again. Gonna take you to demographics, and we're gonna see how similar this is. Wait, it looks exactly the same, right? Except for that menu is a little bit bigger at the bottom. So this is gonna keep you guys from being scared to use these things. Things aren't gonna be changing constantly, except for the data being added on the back end. But you're gonna be able to go to these visualizations, and if you've used one before, you're gonna be able to like use them all. It's gonna be really easy learning process for you guys. You just have to go in there and play around with things for a little bit. So, like I said, I'm about to go rogue because I don't have any, I'm done with my notes to make sure I covered things. Yes?
Can I just ask a question? Is the data coming from Twist Ad Hoc, or Work in Texas, or all 3?
Twist and Work in Texas.
Thank you.
It will be, yeah.
Other questions?
Yes.
And Rehab Works.
And Rehab Works.
Please let us repeat. Ask the question.
Yeah.
So as a student hireability navigator, we are, one of our responsibilities is to integrate VR with workforce programs. And sometimes the customer's getting dual services from both. I know that VR uses Rehab Works and the workforce uses Twist. So is there anything that's coming that would link them together so that we can know what services they're getting? Thank you.
So this kind of gets to what I'll describe as on the roadmap, but not in, we're not ready to start the car. So there are 2 ways that this is likely going to go. All right, my computer just heard something. All right. The agency, you may know that we recently created this customer care division, and the idea behind it is to improve the customer service experience of the people we serve. And the idea, at least one of the ideas that's underway, is building something that we call middleware layer that connects between the systems to allow privileged users, which people with authorization and business need, to be able to see not only the data on the person they're serving that's relevant to their program, but some shared data from other programs. It's like that would be a way possibly to get there. Now, we also, I don't know how long that's going to take. It's this capital budget project, so you're probably looking at more than a couple of years away. But in the meantime, when we finish building out these the things that we've been discussing today, when there's a VR version and a childcare version and an adult ed version of all of these dashboards, the next thing on my list, because I have a list, is to build what I call the integrated version of these, which is going to be a little more challenging, but it's to try to create a version of the dashboards that do exactly what you were saying and provide some ability to see across the programs more directly. Now, it's not going to work exactly the same. There are going to have to be some differences because at least like for the WIOA measures, they're all based on what are called periods of participation, this idea that a person is determined eligible, they begin receiving services, they go get service until a certain point in time, at which point they stop receiving services and they exit, and when they exit, then we start measuring for outcomes. Well, Department of Education and Labor decided in their infinite wisdom, and I use that phrase very, very sarcastically, that they did not want states to have integrated periods of participation, meaning that they did not want services, a person who was co-enrolled between education and workforce, to be able to have a single common period of participation that took into account all the services, even though we have all the programs and we think it makes sense and it would promote integration and coordination. Okay, so I'm talking about intentional coordination of services across programs. When I say integration, I don't mean the fact that, oh look, they're serving them and oh, we're serving them, so look, you know, that's not integrated services, right? Integration is about communication, it's about intentionality. Unfortunately, like I said, their vision at the time was somewhat limited, and perhaps that's something we can get changed eventually. But in the meantime, even if we can't create true integrated POPs for these programs, we can develop tools that will allow us to get better views of what's going on across programs for the people we serve. Sure.
Yes. She has a mic.
If we do the export to the CSV, is there a way to drill down to the raw data so I can actually see like client level information for?
There is a separate visualization called download. So every one of these workbooks has 2 workbooks, and that's for security purposes. Like I said, your Twist email address needs to match your Okta email address, and that's so that we can put security on it, so you can only see what you are allowed to see based on your Twist credentials. So there are 2. They look the same at the top, and it has instructions on how to download it. It has a big CSV button on it, and there is documentation that goes with that as well. But it does have the filter bars at the top, so you could still filter down to, like, if you just want to see vets or less than 18-year-olds, you still have that ability. Okay. Yes.
When is this going to be available?
It is.
Because, okay. So then when has it been available since?
For C, career and training, it's available. For the other programs.
For the reporting, yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So for all of the programs, yes.
All of the programs,
Well, all the WIOA programs, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Every time I click on the visual part, I always get like the different information. I don't have like complete access, I guess. And then the documentation just brings up the measures, the reporting. So I don't know if it's just my end or just.
Can we talk after?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. There might be something going on there with other access. So this is the measurable skills gain overview file, and so I've skipped the demographics. It was up while Adam was talking, but I've moved on to monthly performance. Here you can see the monthly individual performance for MSG. There's also the quarterly performance and a yearly performance dashboard as well. But what is really more special about this is we have a MSG gain type dashboard. And so you can see the different kinds of gain types, skills, progression, report card or transcript, so you can see them stacked on top of each other for the year. And you can switch between years. Sure.
And you can drill that down to any board area?
Yeah, so what's your board area? Brazos. There's Brazos for 2022. For all programs. Is there a specific program that you work with? Adult Ed. Oh, we don't have that.
That's not up yet.
That's not up yet, but
Still, I mean, you can see what WIO is doing.
Yeah.
And follow suit if they're successful.
Yeah.
I was just commenting that you could see what WIO is doing in your board area and follow suit with what's successful.
Yeah, and imagine a version of this that works with adult ed, because that's
Yeah.
what we're going to be building. We're just trying to deal with, shall we say, certain unexpected input that we got from the U.S. Department of Education regarding the program. And once we have figured out exactly what that might mean for some teams changes, then we're going to be working on the design for this.
Real briefly before we get to your question, I just want to point out that if you see asterisks, thank you. If you see asterisks on any of these visualizations, it's because the number is less than 5. And this keeps identities safe. So if you need to see that information, you need to have access to the downloadable information to actually see who those people are. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. Yes, what's your question?
Are there plans to add an ISY to the measurable skills gain? That way we're able to identify if they're in-school youth?
I don't know.
Since they have different...
Yeah, he's asking if we're going to add ISY to measurable skills gain in school youth.
To the download as a characteristic.
In school youth. Yeah, I believe it is in the download, maybe?
Doesn't the download indicate what put the person in the measure?
I think so.
And so all in-school youth are included in the measurable skills gain automatically. So we will take a look at the add it to make sure that it's there. But that was the idea, is we knew that you would have questions like, well, why has this got my denominator?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that there was a way to look at that in the download. So if it's not there now, then that's like an oops, but it should be there.
Because right now it does list like we owe a youth, but it doesn't list if they're an ISY or an OSY.
Yeah, I think it would be in the other, it would be in the reason for a denominator type column, but we'll look at that.
Okay, we just have a few minutes left, so, and y'all have been asking great questions. I would like a volunteer, though, real quick. Any volunteers? Okay. I'm actually going to go to, what program are you with again?
We're one stop, so we do childcare and
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it up, and I'm gonna go to participants and reportables real quick before I show you a preview of the NPR that's coming. This is gonna be the participants report, and you know how earlier I said you have multiple measures sometimes in this. This has participants, reportables, and what we're calling customer served. This is not necessarily the old customer served, if you've been around for a while with common measures. So the customer served in this case is participants and reportables totaled together. So, okay. Do you have a question you would like to ask about people participating in your area?
Oh, okay. It would have been mainly the in-school part of it for the measurable skill gains. That's the main thing that we're having issues with.
Okay, so
just
I
breaking
could,
down the youth.
Yeah, I could do local youth. And what's your board?
Permian,
Permian.
number 11.
And I'm gonna look at this year. So I'm gonna change this to October and change this to, I believe February is the latest NPR. Looks like all of those 70 people are non-veterans.
Yep.
So that's the first thing it's telling me. And you have a very young crowd in your group. So we have 7 less than 18-year-olds, which is 10% of that. And then 63 are 18 to 24-year-olds. They're non-veterans. They're close to being an evenly mix of female and male, and you have 42 of those are Hispanic, and you have a grand total of 70 individuals. So that's how quickly you can get answers to questions. They have a varied education base, and you can see those asterisks here in the education. How many does that say? 5? 5. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't have my glasses on. So this is the way that you can use this, right? And once you get that information, you can use it in different ways. With this, we also have trends.
Do you also have a way to filter for barriers for youth?
You have to download the data
downloads, okay.
to get to that information. We can only put so much on the screen and have it be accessible to those with disabilities, right? So we want to make sure that it's easy to use, but we do provide that information in the download. Okay, let's see. And we have a quarterly performance trend as well. I took it out of. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to show you a sneak peek at the NPR that's coming. I don't have it favorited, so I can't get there. How many of you guys use the pod? Yeah? The pod's going to be in the NPR in the future. So like I said before, everything starts out with a menu. If we have more than one dashboard, you can see this has tons of dashboards listed at the bottom. So I'm just going to go over a couple of them that may be a bit familiar to you guys if you've seen the NPR. The summary. The summary will now look like this. It comes up with those board contracted measures, and it kind of has a pod look to it now. So you'll be able to see your board contracted measures, or all of your measures all at once, or targeted in specific areas. So it's a lot. You have the same sort of options that you have in the Access NPR, but now it'll be much quicker because the NPR is old. And you'll be able to look at your areas once again. Okay.
The question?
Yes.
Hi. Do you have a report for childcare services for initial job search parents that continue in services after the 3 months?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, you were asking if there's a report for that?
Yes.
Yes, there is. It's out there now. It's the child care employment report.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the report covers both those who were on the initial child care, which you're talking about, so that their job search child care, and it also covers claimants, so child care parents who had jobs and lose those jobs and file for UI benefits. It tracks reemployment of them as well.
After the 3 months of services?
Yes.
And this is based on the number of parents that we serve, on the number of children?
This is based on the parents.
Yes, because, okay.
Because they're the ones who have to be reemployed, whether
yes.
they've got 1 kid or 7.
Yes, because last week you sent a report, and this is based on the number of children. So the award is going to be based on the number of parents, correct?
The reemployment and these reports you're talking about here, these are going to be based on the ones we've been demonstrating. They're going to be parent-based,
Okay,
but
thank
there
you.
will be kid-based reports, obviously, too, because that's kind of the unit of measure in terms of spending the money and operating the program.
Okay, thank you.
It looks like we have 1 minute.
Is TWC planning to have any training on this, or the user guide?
Training.
Yeah, we're going to be developing recorded trainings on all of this stuff. Everything's moving at the same time. And we're in the process of trying to bring on additional contract resources to help us build these things, which may free up some capacity for us to go back and start recording some trainings and things like that. We've done a few on Zoom calls here and there for some of the early products, but we probably need to think through a more standardized approach for how we would approach how we do this. Dawn? Oh, sorry, Patricia.
BSS staff is doing some TA on this, so we're learning it just as right along with you all. So the WI team has also developed a Deskgate that is growing as we learn more about this, so we'll share that with you. So if you have any questions, because it doesn't just apply to WIOA, it applies to all of the programs, and the sooner we all learn this, the better for all of us. Just contact your BSS staff and set up a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, and we can walk you through it, and you can help us develop those desks as well.
Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. If you have any questions, please let us know.